But it's a song referencing a prostitute. Some interpretations and translations of that scenario in the New Testament was that Mary Magdalene had been brought to self-actualization through her experience with the teachings of Christ. And she took a vial of perfume which was worth a year's work in prostitution, where she had sold her body, and poured it on Jesus' feet and body and massaged him, so to speak, crying and wiping his body with her hair. A very sensual and spiritual, and to some people even sexual encounter. It is a social, sexual, sensual, spiritual encounter that we all have with each other all the time. People are afraid of the sexual part of it because you think it's something evil or dirty. Jesus didn't. Some traditions now, or new ideologies, say that maybe he married Mary Magdalene, of course, you know, and moved to France and all that stuff. It wouldn't bother me at all if he did. Even the experience of him laying on the ground and her washing him or rubbing him with perfume that smelled nice and wiping then it off with her hair is pretty sensual. It might have been a turn on to most people because most of us don't perceive that Jesus would ever be turned on. What would be the fine line between that experience of the alabaster box and the fragrance around and this lady who was known to be in some ways even abused by men, and now she's being touched by a man or touching a man who's not paying her to do it? If you talk about unity and diversity, which we're going to talk about today, I didn't imagine he was going to sing that song, but it kind of fits into this whole idea of what would you do in that situation? I often thought, I haven't run into too many prostitutes outside the church. In fact, I ain't ran into none outside the church. But I often wonder, were I in that precarious situation, would I allow a woman known for prostitution to anoint my body with the same oils that she may have used to seduce other men? Just look at the story. Consider the scenario. How would you respond in that situation? Or how do you respond in it? And is that part of your diverse, unified person or character or essence? Unity is the state of being united or joined as a whole. It comes from the Latin word uno or unas. Uno means one. You've heard me say here many times, universe is one verse, version, or versification of the whole. When we call ourselves the Universalists, we mean we are intimately, inextricably connected to a larger paradigm. We are part and parcel of a larger part. Some Christian Universalists teach that the whole world will be saved. That was how I initially taught in the Gospel of Inclusion. That, in fact, I was saying I believed in hell and I just didn't believe anybody would be in it. And then I stopped believing in a literal, customized torture chamber whose architect was God and whose supervisor was the devil. And that they had this sort of cooperative where the devil would accuse the brethren, and God would believe the devil's accusation unless Jesus stood up and protected us from the accusation. And many Christians subliminally believe that, and Jesus then protects us from God. The accusation or the accusation of the devil, or diabolo, and then God would say, oh, okay, that's cool. Who else committed adultery? Anybody else down there screwed up? What? Give me a whole list. In fact, y'all start making lists. Peter, write it down, because I'm going to get them all. They all going to burn in hell. Now just think of that scenario of God. And even if they don't do nothing, if they think about doing it, write them down. Because vengeance is mine. I will repay. I'm a jealous God. I'll get every one of those sons of bishops. You might spell it differently, but The whole concept of an angry God who's visceral and has temper tantrums, has terrible anger management problems, and needs Dr. Phil or somebody to counsel him. This scenario has been in our minds for centuries, for millennia, even longer than 2,000 years back into the Old Testament. There's probably a couple of billion Americans or people, on the planet who believe and have that image of God, and we're dancing around with it, and we're trying to be unified to it, connected to it, and to each other, knowing that God has a bad opinion of most of the people on the earth and will ultimately torture them. I know many people here, of course, don't believe that, but we've all been taught that or been in a culture or society where that is the prevailing ideology. The scriptures say in Genesis 1, God is quoted saying to Adam and Eve, "You are free to eat from any tree or truth in the garden, except the one that says any of the other ones are bad, the one that judges them as being good or evil." You can eat from any truth, because that is one of the truths. You can eat from any of the trees or truths except the tree or truth that denounces or dismisses or devaluates the other ones as being good or evil, of God or devil. Duality. Unitarian, Universalist, duality. Where do we fit in that? He didn't just say those who taste it, but those who live off of, who eat and sustain their life with a dual consciousness. At the same time, we're trying to encourage peace and diversity. I forgot to tell you the reason I'm sitting here is I had a diverse thing removed off the bottom of my foot. I had a little cyst that had been there for several years, and it grew and got too painful, and so they had it removed, and I have to wear this for about another week, so they say. I timed it wrong. I was timed the surgery, I thought, to where I'd be off this today, and I got confused. And so here I am, and my ego's all deflated because I got to come up here as if I'm weak, and I'm really not weak, but I don't want to talk about it. Somebody say, ain't nothing wrong with me, and everything is at the same time. This time last year, I had a catheter going through my stomach into my bladder. And my daddy was dying, and this was a very difficult time of year. I'll be celebrating my 63rd birthday next month. That my dad made his transition. Here we say, those of us who call ourselves expanding into new thought don't like to say died or dead. We like to say they transitioned or they went home to be with the Lord. That all sounds better. In other words, they did. So, but it's just a figure of speech, right? Words, we spell words, but words spell us or cast spells on us. And we get enchanted by certain vocabulary and certain colloquialisms or figures of speech. They carry energy, they carry vibration, so we choose the way we express ourselves and expect that others would understand it, and that's important as well. But I want to talk about this whole identity of unity and diversity. Unity and diversity are the same thing, and yet they are very different. Diversity means variety. You've heard me say that there's a scripture that says, how can two walk together except they be in agreement or except they agree? That's a Hebrew passage, but I'm going to interpret it in Greek. The word agreement, as you've heard me say many times, symphoneo, where we get the English word symphony, same phonics, symphoneo. Symphony, it doesn't mean to sound alike or to get alike or the same. It just means to sound together. All the instruments in the symphony are different, but they make beautiful music when they play together. But there's timing, there's tuning, there's toning, there's the music line, all of that there's rehearsals, there's a conductor, but the idea is to come to some type of symphonic sound, which is something we do all the time, first with ourselves and with our spouses or partners or children, or with our employees or employer, with our neighbors, with our siblings, with our parents. You're always trying to get along. Turn to somebody and say, can't we all just get along? We don't have to go along to get along. Say that, please. How are you going to get along with somebody you don't go along with? Is it possible to get anybody? How many of you are married? Well, then you know what I'm talking about. How many of you are single? Raise your hand. And those of you who wish you were, raise your hand. No. The greatest practice of symphoneo is in marriage. Divorce is only legal separation. It doesn't mean moral or spiritual or psychological separation. Right. Divorce, divert, division. Two visions, two forces, two versions or more that don't always cooperate. You can cooperate, but you don't always cooperate. There is diversity, or to divert, which means to turn. If you're going to be diverse, that means you're going to turn, you're going to twist, you're going to adjust. None of these glasses I changed glasses because I thought these would make me see y'all better, but you're jumping. Is this a Pentecostal church? Now I have to accept the fact that I'm aging too, and I'm changing and shifting and evolving. Yeah, man. Sitting up here having surgery and all that stuff. In this town, as I said to you before, I'm used to going into the hospitals and praying for the sick. You know, I was Oral's protege. I'm at Oral Roberts University, the healing ministry. And when they heard I was in a hospital, I'd go to every floor that they asked me to. Oh, Pastor, would you come? My mother's up here, my grandmother, my brother, my sister. If they would love for you to come, and I would really spend hours in the hospital. Now I actually go to a doctor's office and hear my name shouted out. They act like they're going to use a microphone. Thank you. Carlton, Pearson. And I'm always embarrassed because my ego says I'm not supposed to wear this kind of stuff. My ego says I'm never supposed to be in need or I'm never supposed to lack. What I'm saying is I deny a part of my integrated person. The unit that I am, the fact that I get older, that I have to ask you to say that again, please. That my daughter's music is too loud, and that I have a lot of the old and the new coming together. That's part of my diverse, integrous personality. There's integration and disintegration. In between there, it's segregation. If you talk about races, we have to accept the fact that we really are in many ways different and otherwise the same. That we are symphonic sound in the earth. And the only way to get along is to understand that you don't have to go along. We don't have to go along to get along. We can mind many of the same things without having the same mind about everything. The more I accept the fact that I do have mood swings. And I like some people and I don't like some folk. Including two of the people I am, or three of them. You've heard me often say that we all travel along, but none of us travels alone. We pick up passengers along the way. Excuse me? Yeah, you get hitchhikers. And they're riding along with you and they always share their story. Which is not always your story, but you start relating to their story when they've been riding with you for 40 years. And expressing their opinions about you or the situation. None of us has a conversation only with the person we think we're talking to. We have conversations with all the opinions of the passengers that we have, and we collect them over the year, and they tell you stuff. In fact, you're barely listening to me. You're listening to what the opinions of your passengers have on what I'm saying. And David said he don't agree with that, and part of it he does agree with it. Because I'm listening to the passengers that I'm carrying. They're telling me what to tell you. Mama and them, daddy and them, grandmama and them, folks are dead or transitioned. How many voices are we listening to, and how diverse is our character? What does it mean to be united and to be diverse at the same time? To be able to, these glasses, they have different prescriptions. And my eyes evidently have different from these. Because ain't none of these glasses working today. See, there's a part of me that says, ain't none of these glasses working. And there's a part of me that will say, neither of these pairs of glasses. Sarah's sitting down here, Sarah Jordan, she's a school teacher, and so she corrects my grammar all the time. But the fact is that I used to wear these, now I'm wearing these. And I can go to the ophthalmologist and they can find something else wrong, that I have this on today. I'll have it off in about a week or so. Supposedly the tumor won't, or the cyst won't grow back. I'm shifting. Tell somebody, you're shifting. Come on, say it. Tell somebody, I am shifting. Say it. Saying I'm going through shift. Now you're scared to say that part. And I'm trying to get my shift together. That's powerful too. Shift, S-H-I-F-T. We're always constantly shifting and evolving. My attitude toward non-black people is changing. Still, because I came from a culture who were suspicious of white people, even though we have white in our back. My great-grandfather is half white. We have Native American in us. But my parents, grandparents, and great-grandwomen worked in white people's homes to clean them. The homes we live in today were homes that we only went in to clean when I was a kid. Now, that doesn't mean anything to people who don't know that experience. I wish I could have sat with Barbara in the group yesterday. When was it? Yesterday, when there's a class on, correct me if I say this wrong or make it better. There's a class we offer here, right?
Yes.
For white people to know
what it means to be white.
What it means to be white.
And how you became white
And how you became white people.
people. And how do you take responsibility?
And how do you take responsibility for that disease? And no, I'm kidding. No. There's a race that's my little racism in me, huh? That's one of them that ain't me. That's the passenger. I got white, racist, black Panther passengers. I got honkies and crackers and niggas. I got all of them in my, talk to me. I said nigga too. They're all in my background. I got angry people riding. I got vicious people. I have real compassionate, codependent people who are abused and who are taken advantage of and who are afraid to talk. But they're on board, and so do you. We all have prejudgments or prejudices. As far as they can trace the human race, so far in science, they trace us all back to the continent of Africa. That's sort of the cradle of the universe, that we all at one time were black. Until Cain sinned and they turned some of them white. But up until then, everybody had been black. That doesn't go over well in this church, right? What is this sexually transmitted disease or dis-ease that we call life? The dis-ease, the tension of being human. And first trying to get along with yourself and with others. How are you being integrous? Or how are you displaying your integrated self? As opposed, or in contrast, or comparison to the disintegrating you. To disintegrate means to explode and to disappear. But when you integrate, it's taken me 63 years almost to understand that it's okay for me to be integrated, to have several different personifications, that mood swings can be healthy. It's okay for me to feel a little low sometime. And even the scripture says, be angry and don't sin, which takes all the fun out of being angry. But there are times when I do have prejudices and judgments about what people look like, or how they talk, or where they live, or what they drive, or what they're wearing. Talk to me, somebody, please. A lady came up to me one time. She said, I was in Nebraska, white lady. She said, or we could say Anglo-American or European-American. She said, she said, Carlton, Pearson, I love the colors. I've always loved colored people. I don't have a thing in the world against coloreds. Now, this was an Assembly of God church. She says, in fact, if it wasn't for the grace of God, we'd all be colored. She meant no harm. She had no idea what she said. But when they got her up off the floor, I explained to her. I finally explained what she was saying. Now, that was in her mind. She wasn't trying to demean me or insult me, or she wasn't showing any poisonous prejudice, but she was born in a state and raised where very few African Americans live or want to live. And they're comfortable with that. And I wasn't even offended. I hugged her. I said, well, thank God for the coloreds. One lady kissed me at ORU back in the day when I was leading singing there. She said, she just ran up and hugged me and kissed me, a non-black lady. And she said, oh my God, that's the first time I've ever kissed a colored. And I said, did it feel good?
Let's put that back on.
I said, did it feel good? And she said, it was wonderful. And I said, well, you see what you've been missing all these years? Once you go black, you never go back. Now, she laughed just like you're laughing. And it didn't dawn. I said, now what if, when somebody says to me, I don't see you as colored. And I always say, and what if you did? To me, you're not white. You're just people. But if I did see you as different from me, not bad or good, just different from me, could I accept that? And ask yourself, how many different people do you see? Because we all have tastes, we all have opinions, we all have appraisals, appreciations and depreciations. That's who you are. You don't have to stop being that way. Just know how to manage your diversity. And see it as a unified part of who you are. And stop protesting about who you are or who you aren't. Manage who you are and who you are. Protesting doesn't change anything. Contesting doesn't change anything. But managing the fact that from time to time you get uncomfortable. You raise your voice. You raise your eyebrows. Your nostrils flare. You break out in a cold sweat. You start stretching and changing things that don't need to be changed. You've heard me give the example of somebody who doesn't talk a lot, but they get angry. And the way they express their anger is, they ain't saying nothing, but the other person's just going after them, just cussing and fussing and fighting, and they doing this. They fix to knock your head clean off. They may never say a word, but they're going to take that head off in a minute. Because there is a part of you who's angry. Ask yourself at what and why. When something ticks you off, turns you off, shuts you down, before you react, ask it, why is it there? Why are you manifesting? Why is my blood pressure going up? Face turning red? Or navy blue, whatever it turned. Why are you scratching and twitching? It's not the person you think made you angry. Look on the others, unpackage that. Before you react, why did that tick you off? What is it alive in you that makes you angry at someone different from you? And again, I've often said, nobody can hurt you or even hate you like somebody you love. Sometimes you'll forgive a friend much faster than you will forgive a family member. You'll forgive a stranger a lot faster than you'll forgive a family member. Because your family members are not supposed to do that to you. Because you're penalizing them for love. You're supposed to love me. How dare you do that? And you haven't talked to a family member in years because of love. Stranger, you forgive. Neighbor, you forgive. But you won't forgive your sister or your brother or your mother or your father or the person with whom you had several children and whom you lived with for years and raised a family. And you're carrying all of this luggage around. It's not so much that you carry it around, but why are you? What makes you lug it around? Why are you holding on to the anger or the grief? Don't deny that it's there, but ask yourself, why am I allowing this to be a dominant portion of my essence? Not why am I hurting, but what is the origin of the pain? Where did it come from? Turn to somebody just to break a little bit of the tension and say, why are you hurting? Don't answer, just ask them, why are you hurting? What's the matter with you? You ever heard that? What's the matter with you? Have you lost your mind? You crazy? What happened? What's the matter? Somebody just burst into tears. What's wrong? You want to fix it. You want to help them. Why are you crying? And why do your tears intimidate me? Come on, this is group therapy this morning. Why am I uncomfortable with your uncomfortableness? Am I taking it personally? Can I have a little bit more with this water? Please, thank you. Why am I, and I'm asking myself these questions too, because I want to be the most exact and precise and accurate expression and experience of myself as possible. That's why I'm asking this. Who is the integrated you? How many of you would say that 80% of the time, let me say 50% of the time, you are pretty happy, pretty content? 50% of the time. Be honest, please. May God smite you with blindness if you're lying. No, I'm kidding. Excuse me? I'm going to go higher. But I'm going to go lower too. How would you say at least a quarter of the time you're pretty content and happy? Just be honest. At least a quarter. Think of 3 or 4 quarters. Just about a fourth of the time you're good to go. And the other 3/4, does that mean that the other 3/4 you're vexed or angry or uncomfortable or, okay, up and down? How many of you, most of you said, just, like this all day? That's a good sign of health when it flatlines. You dead again. How many of you would say most of the time it's kind of up and down? Not very many. Raise an hand if it's up and down. So I'm assuming that the rest of you means that it's not up and down. It's pretty this. Talk to me, okay? This is class this morning. What?
We try to live in gratitude.
Okay, we try to live in gratitude. Is that therapy for you? I try to live in gratitude so I don't have to live in matitude. Thank you. The opposite of matitude is gratitude. In the midst of that is an attitude about what you're experiencing. Wrap your arms around yourself and just make sure you hear. Now, this is me. Now, in a minute, we're going to walk out of here, so we're thinking, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of my day? I'm going to call my mom. So I called her this morning. She forgets that this is live. She's 86. She keeps, I missed the third Sunday one time and spoke a second Sunday, and she can't get off the second Sunday. She keeps thinking I speak on second Sunday and not third. I've told her 1,000 times. But that's my mom. Okay? So she slows down a little bit. When she doesn't remember what I say, and I want to say, Mom, I told you that 3 times. I have to pause, because me saying that to her doesn't change the fact that I'll need to say it to her again the next time I see her. But it's like, I get angry because I don't want Mama to not be Mama. Anybody know what I'm talking about? So when I leave, I say to myself, were you kind? Were you impatient? Don't be angry at your mother because she doesn't remember things as well at 86 years old. Because you could add another 10 years to that just because she raised 6 kids and was married 68 years. Nobody's perfect. I even hate to say that because we all know that. No one's perfect. That means forgive me for not being perfect. Why do I think you want me to be perfect or expect me to be perfect? And why do I demand that of you and get disappointed when you aren't? Do this a little bit because it's tense. Dang, it's getting all up in my stuff. I'm not an angry person in general, but I am passionate about some things. And I get energized by some things. When I watch what's happening in Syria and around the world with starving people and refugees and people closing the Pope said the other day that if you're going to be like Christ, well, you would build bridges, you would build bridges, not walls. Now, of course, the candidate took that personally, and all he had to do was quote from 2 Corinthians and straighten it out. The whole idea of being an evangelical Christian or a non-evangelical Christian or a Protestant who's not Catholic or Catholic who doesn't hang out with Protestants or Unitarian Universalists, people always say to me, and this is changing and I'm glad, so what do they believe down there? And I go, nothing.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true.
Then I break it down of what we really do believe. People say to me often, and I'm almost finished, so they tell me you don't believe in hell. I said, I know too many Christians not to believe in hell and too many people not to believe in hell, excuse me. But I don't believe in a literal torture chamber that's eternal. And the hell that we create for ourselves and for others. And we do that all the time. But here's what I ended up by sometimes I just say, you want to talk about what I don't believe in, and I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about what I do believe in. What I do believe in is you. I believe in you. I believe in your elegance and your eloquence and your excellence as a human being. I believe that you are a divine person, and I want to help you bridge your humanity to your divinity. I think you're spectacular. I think you're amazing. I think you're brilliant, and I'm talking to you. I think you're honorable. I think you're gorgeous. I think you're precious and powerful. I have so much belief, and the closest to God I may ever get is my personal actualization and realization. When I really get to know who I am, that may be as close to God as I ever really need to be. Same with you. Say this, I will bridge my humanity to my divinity. I will be the bridge, and I will build the bridge. I didn't read in here. I'm going to close with this quote by Billy Graham because I didn't use my notes. I didn't even use the scripture that I had. Billy Graham, it's not just a quote from him, it's somebody making a commentary on some of the things he's been saying. It's called Faith Defenders. This guy's defending the faith. Let me proceed this by saying any God that can be killed should be. Because if your God can be killed, it ain't really God. Because if there is in fact a God, that God cannot be killed by you. This guy says, I told you so, Billy Graham, Dr. Robert Morey. This is back in 2006. In USA Today, Monday, March 16, 2005, and we used to have this on our site. Billy Graham was interviewed, and he's lashed out against fundamentalists, Christians, Billy Graham, and the right-wing conservatives. The title of the article is The Gospel of Billy Graham, Inclusion. Now, this came out in 2005. It saddens me, says this writer, to once again be completely vindicated. Several years ago, I released a video in which Billy Graham and Robert Schuller were agreeing that it is not necessary to hear or believe in Jesus Christ or his gospel to go to heaven. Billy Graham openly stated that Muslims, Hindus, etc. would all make it to heaven without Jesus. The public response to my analysis, says this writer of the videotape, was ferocious and vicious. People stopped supporting my ministry. Churches shut their doors to me. I was called a liar, and I was vilified in every way imaginable. Thank God people like, and he mentioned John MacArthur, watched the video and saw with their own eyes and heard with their own ears Billy Graham denying that we are saved through Jesus Christ alone. The article in USA Today is the final chapter on this issue. Billy Graham makes it abundantly clear he teaches inclusivism and that he no longer believes in exclusivism. My readers must understand that while the doctrine of inclusivism means that you include in heaven all and any and all good people, whether their religious background, exclusivism is the doctrine that says only those that accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior will make it to heaven. While receiving the sad news about Billy Graham going further into apostasy, I have received literature of the Global Day of Prayer. They boasted that all religions were invited to pray together. The local newspaper pictured Muslims, Jews, Hindus, Mormons, so-called Christians, etc., praying together. While this scene would gladden the heart of Billy Graham, it has saddened mine. Brothers and sisters, we are seeing the one world religion come together in our own day. I fully expect the day to come soon when those of us who hold out for the gospel will be arrested because we refuse to be yoked with unbelievers. Pray for Dr. Graham that he will return to the path of righteousness. Pray against the global day of prayer, that it will collapse and fizzle. And pray for us as we preach the truth without compromise. Did y'all hear that? I used to be there. I used to live at that street address. For nearly 50 years of my life, I was afraid of unity or unification or universalism or coming together, all the races and, not the races so much, but all the religions praying, Mormons and Jews and Hindus and Wiccan witches and, oh my God. We have to stay on the straight and narrow. Come ye out from among them. Be not unequally yoked. I can quote scriptures to support that position. That's why it's time to change what we believe and why we believe it. And capitalize upon what we know. Billy Graham, in his 90s, now understands that he preached, and he told me with his own mouth, he preached a harsh gospel. We were together at the Oklahoma bombing, and he said, I spent the whole day with him. He said, I don't feel like my 50 years of ministry has accomplished much. I worked hard. I was away from my wife and family. And I'm wondering how effective it really was. He was shaking with Parkinson's disease there. I cut his breakfast up for him that morning. He said, it hurts to even hold a pen, and I'm writing my memoirs. But I never expected to come to Oklahoma to minister or eulogize almost 200 people killed with the worst act of terrorism on American soil, here in Oklahoma City. Isn't that amazing? Do this one more time. It's time for me to stop. David's been hinting to me for the last several minutes to stop. We have several other events to have at the church here today, and there's so much going on. I heard somebody say that the other day, people are dying that have never died before. Some folk think that's a sign of the end of the world, you know. People are getting out of here. I want to stand if I might. People are getting out of here. People are leaving. People are changing. I'm shifting. I'm accepting the fact that part of me is getting older. Part of me is getting wiser. Part of me does have aspects of me that just need to be managed and controlled, but that'll never go away. How about you? Say all of me. Why not take all of me? Say all of me. Why not be all of me? Hug your integrated self. Love who you are. And who you aren't is not interesting. Only who you are is. Who you aren't isn't interesting. Only who you are is. And who you are is powerful. So integrate yourself, your united, diverse, divert self, and love it. Say, I love me some me. I accept me some me. I rejoice in who I am. and who I am becoming. Shake one more time. Wave the old you goodbye and accept the whole you now. The whole you is good. The whole you, in my opinion, is God. I love you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your united and diverse self.
Let's all stand together. You're my brother, you're my sister, so take me by the hand. Together we will work until we're done.
We are your church, and we are proud to be your church, or at least a church that's having a positive impact on your life. I am personally blessed to be your minister, or at least a minister who you're allowing to speak into your life. I hope you'll support our ministry and share your love beyond belief by texting LOVE-BB to 41444 or go to our website. But you can just text LOVE-BB to 41444 and make your gift. It's wonderful. Thank you. Be blessed and be a blessing.